Hey, what is going on, Twintendo Nation? Hope you're having an awesome day. Today we have our first ever Pokemon anime episode review. This is of the first episode of the brand new Pokemon anime, which is known as Pocket Monsters for now. I'm not sure if that's going to get a name change when it comes into like English translation. But this episode is called Pikachu It's Born. This is kind of like a special episode. We get the backstory of Pikachu. And today I'm joined by my brother, Ollie. He is going to be doing a lot of these anime review stuff on a channel. He basically knows a lot more about anime than me. But I will be still covering, Pokemon anime news and stuff like that. But he will be focusing on the anime reviews. So, what did you think of that episode?
Do you know, I thought it was pretty good, actually. It feels like it was a long-awaited thing, Pikachu's origin story. I don't know if they could have done it like earlier in the franchise, but
I was kind of surprised that it's taking 20 plus years. I after watching it, as much as I thought this is fine, this is a good episode, I didn't really need to know about it in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some faults with it, and obviously we can talk about that later in the video. But it seems like they're going for some form of, not a reboot as such, but they're restructuring Pokemon, just calling it the anime series Pokemon yet again. I feel like they're trying to, this was the perfect episode to bring back in fans of the original show and get them interested for the new series. There's a lot of odes and little nods to the original series, which were really quite great to see as a fan who grew up with that. And
that's true. And there's a lot of Kanto Pokemon, as you'd expect. It was something taking place in Kanto. But we'll talk about the story of the episode, what it was about. And so basically, it's all about, I say it's all about Pikachu's backstory, but I feel like there's two subplots going on. Honestly, like Pikachu as a Pichu, but how Ash and Gou almost met as kids, basically.
Yeah, I felt like the theme of the episode was, fates intertwining and chance encounters.
Absolutely.
And I think they really tried to demonstrate that with, obviously, Ash missing out on his opportunity of meeting Pikachu as a baby, for one, and Gou and Koharu as well.
Yeah, so the two subplots are kind of intertwined. It's not like one and then the other. They cut back and forth. So we'll talk about the plot. So it basically starts with Ash. I think he's 6 at this point, going downstairs to ask his mom to basically be signed up to Professor Oak's Pokemon exploration walk in a nearby forest.
Yeah.
And it looked quite fun. As a kid, I would have definitely loved to do that.
The poster looked great. I mean, Professor Oak's got some great posing going on there with all the Pokemon. Delia Ketchum showing off her great parenting skills by letting Ash go down the banister on one hand, which I thought was quite...
you pointed that out. I never really noticed that.
Obviously, it shows Ash's enthusiasm for Pokemon, which is obviously such a great trait of his, and which I think is why he'll get on so well with Gou. But
yeah, they're very, very similar in some regards. But yeah,
I thought he could have broken his neck there. Not gonna lie.
I mean, I think you're the only one really thinking about that. But yeah, it goes back to cuts back. We get to see Pichu for the first time, which is actually obviously Ash's Pikachu. Emerges from the bushes, and then it defends itself from an Ekans, and basically you hear the narrator say it's a very lonely Pikachu. It shows how it kind of shows a lot of Pokemon groups and saying how they have families, and unfortunately this Pichu is all alone. It's trying to pull at your heartstrings, and it works, to be honest. Yeah, I felt really sorry for it.
It was cute. It was a bit sad. I loved how obviously the Ekans comes out and it's really menacing, and Pichu already demonstrating its strength, why it became such a strong Pokemon for Ash.
Yeah. So it gets into a few scrapes and a few battles with Ekans and Coughing, which I'm assuming is a bit of a nod to Team Rocket from the first season.
Yeah, I don't think Coughing was really trying to attack it, but obviously spewing out its gas. It is obviously a little nod, I think.
Yeah, because they're like the first two Pokemon it kind of sees. But then,
can you imagine if they were Coughing and Wheezing, Jesse?
Well, actually, it could be. That's a good point, but I doubt it because they were free Coughing. But yeah, you never know. And then so Pichu falls off the cliff after being gassed by Coughing.
I mean, who wouldn't?
It looks awful and probably smells even worse. And then it's caught by Kangaskhan, and Pichu kind of lives with it we get to see it live with Kangaskhan and the other babies for probably about 3 weeks, a month, maybe even longer.
I think a bit longer.
Actually, it might be a year.
It was quite sweet. Obviously, Pichu initially seemed quite reluctant because obviously it had been living on its own, and new surroundings are quite scary, but it was really quite welcoming. It was a lovely Pokemon, that Kangaskhan mother.
Yeah. She was like, when I was watching it, I was like, she should be up for Mother of the Year.
Yeah.
She was great.
It was delightful to watching that baby Kangaskhan. I'd never cared for them whatsoever in any iteration of Pokemon until this episode, because they don't really have much to go for in the games or the show. But no, it was really sweet how they played with it and became best buds.
Yeah, so it cuts back to, like, I guess where Ash should have been, because he overslept, which is obviously kind of, again, a throwback to the first ever episode of Ash oversleeping before he met Pikachu.
Yeah, and we go into that later on. But what I found funny, obviously, his mother had said, make sure you get up on time, and we cut to the alarm clock on the floor. As always, completely in pieces. And,
well, yeah, he was running out in his pajamas, and he didn't make it, basically. But Gou and Koharu were both at Professor Oak's lab, ready to do this field trip. And this is, I mean, Gou's kind of like, he shows off his Pokemon knowledge. He's one of those kids who wants to, he is a know-it-all, kind of.
Yeah.
But he does know his stuff. So we see Mew fight Nidoking, and we get some really cool animation scenes, because it was kind of... there wasn't too much animation in this episode compared to what we've seen coming up.
It was definitely a reserved amount of animation, more conservative approach. I think there weren't many sparkling action scenes that needed to be done here. They needed a simple but sort of beautiful episode. So obviously we're going to get more action scenes later on in the series. That's been demonstrated in the trailers and what's to come.
So going back to Mew, as I was saying, that, like, we knew that Gou was going to see Mew. We knew in the synopsis, we knew, like, basically it's kind of his big story plot point that's going to happen throughout the season or series. But it turns out that it's not just Gou who sees Mew, it's Koharu as well, who is Gou's childhood friend, who we've seen already. She has a Yamper later on. Professor Sagaragi's daughter, basically.
Yeah, I found that quite an interesting development. There's a few little nods as well later on in the episode that suggest she's got a bigger role to play than what we initially thought.
Yeah, I was surprised at that as well. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad, because obviously when we all thought, oh, she's going to be a travelling companion, so it'll just be... it wouldn't just be Ash and Gou, which when we thought that what it might be, I thought that could be one of the detracting factors of the show.
Yeah.
Just having those two. But it looks like we'll have more of her to see. She's quite an interesting character. Her relationship with Gou's almost like of a big sister, which I quite like, that she's always looking out for him.
That's true.
Whereas Gou seems to think about nothing but himself and Pokemon.
Yeah, the typical headstrong, kind of similar to Ash in a way, especially Ash in his early days. I feel like Ash is kind of mellowed out a bit more.
Yeah, he's just a bit reckless, and he needs to be more aware of his surroundings, I think. Obviously, I think that'll come with time, but a bit of a Pokemon nerd, and
definitely,
it's sort of, a bookwormple, if you will. But I think
you really just go for a Pokemon fun.
You've got to. Yeah,
I like it.
But I think it's going to be really interesting to see his knowledge of Pokemon, see if he can school Ash on a few things. But looking forward to seeing more of both of them.
So going back just before they see Mew, obviously Professor Oak and the kids in the woods, they actually see just some random trainers catching a Caterpie, and it's interesting. This is kind of a little Easter egg throwback to when Ash caught his Caterpie. It's got the same camera angle from, like, I think it's like the second or third episode.
Yeah, this was a great little moment.
Yeah.
I love that you've got the panning camera behind Caterpie, the same stance to catch it from the train.
Yeah, I mean, you guys will see on the screen, obviously you're going to edit it together, as you can see. But I thought that was, Ollie mentioned that, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and we'll just compare the two here. The strikingly similar resemblance. And I've got to say, if you want to live a good life, you've got to find someone who looks at you the same way this Squirtle looks at this trainer. They were definitely meant to be together, and that was it was nice to see some more Kanto throwbacks there. Definitely.
So I was going to say that this is promising. This might just be the first episode or the only episode we kind of get a few throwbacks like that in terms of animation shot by shot, or at least picture. But it would be really nice to see more of them. Like I said, it could just be a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, just to add obviously some more Kanto throwbacks, we see the Dodrio on the house. Obviously, that's a staple thing from the Indigo series. And Ash's bedroom, which has got some nice little hints if you might have missed it.
Oh yeah,
he's got some Game Boy cartridges or possibly DS cartridges. I couldn't quite work out what.
Yeah, because it looks like a DS, but to me they look like Game Boy cartridges.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. And they are red, green, and blue, of course. The first Pokemon games. That was a nice touch. And
no yellow though.
No. And he also had a Staryu right where it belongs. Staryu trash can.
Hey, someone likes Staryu.
Somebody
out there.
does somewhere.
I've
yet to
not
meet
you,
them.
I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so those are kind of like the bits with Gou And then they're kind of like intertwined between Pichu's story. Pichu's still with the Kangaskhan, and kind of Mew's running away from Gou and kind of plays with one of the Kangaskhan babies. That gets into a bit of trouble, falls off a cliff, just similar to Pichu. And luckily Mew saves the day by kind of catching it with his telekinesis. Gou sees this, but I don't think Gou sees Pichu, which would have been interesting if like Pichu technically met Gou before Ash.
Yeah, no, I was sort of hoping for that. It would have been really interesting.
It would have felt wrong to me, to be honest. I wouldn't have liked that.
Well, not if knowingly have met each other, but to have if maybe Pikachu recognises him when they see each other. Obviously, next episode that would have been quite an interesting development. But who wouldn't want to play with Mew? I can't blame the Kangaskhan for maybe overstepping its bounds. But
Mew is, as we know, overpowered. When in its fight against Nidoking, it just like teleports to dodge every attack. It'll then send the attack straight back and hit Nidoking every time. It was really good to watch. But going back to Pichu, it's got a bit bigger, same with the Kangaskhan baby, and you can see it's taking a toll on the Kangaskhan mother. It's because it's carrying both of them compared to the others carrying just one.
This was a really interesting scene. What the origin story didn't dive into, and this is one of my faults with it. Obviously, you're trying to juggle two plots in the same time within 20 minutes, so I can get it. But we never get to see Pikachu's family, and obviously, this is the first time in a long time Pikachu feels like it's part of the family.
I don't think Pikachu's ever had one. Also, Pichu in this case, I think it's just always had to defend for itself.
Well, it must have had one at some point, and where I think this scene is quite interesting is. Obviously, we see Pichu has no family at the beginning of the episode. You have to wonder if his mother had passed away at some point. So we see, obviously, Kangaskhan struggling and overexerting itself to try and protect its children, because I think at this point it sees Pichu as one. And I don't know if Pichu's seen its mother go through something similar, because Pichu immediately hops out of the pouch and is like, please take care of yourself.
Yeah, and then Kangaskhan mother's like, no, it's fine, this is my duty as a mum. And
it makes you wonder if Pichu had gone through that before.
Yeah, so Pichu, they eventually take shelter in the cave. I'm pretty sure they've done it before, but I'm not sure if it's the same cave or just the cave looks the same in every shot. But Pichu decides it's time for him to move on. It's kind of not outside its welcome, but it doesn't want to impact the family, and so it leaves and saying goodbye. It evolves into obviously what we now know as Pikachu. And the interesting thing about this is obviously Pichu's evolve into Pikachu when they've reached max happiness, or they've got a really good strong relationship with their trainer. But in this case, it's with Kangaskhan, and I think this is really nice because obviously it was quite lonely and sad before. And spending its time with actually having its first probably proper family. It shows, even though it is a bittersweet moment, it's sad that it's leaving, it's also very happy to have that time and spent that time with the Kangaskhan family.
I think Pichu felt quite fulfilled. It was quite a touching moment, I would say, saying goodbye. I was sort of begging for the Kangaskhan to wake up, but I think at this point, they'd have convinced it to stay.
Yeah.
And I think Pichu had to move on, and of course, evolving into Pikachu, it was a nice touch. Under the moonlight as well, it looked really nice.
And I think it wouldn't surprise me if we might see this Kangaskhan again, that Kangaskhan family in an episode, but I think it will probably be left. And then, surprisingly, it says several years later that Pikachu is on its own in the wild for years, which I guess makes sense, because obviously Ash is 6 at the time. I just thought Professor Oak might have had Pikachu for a while. Interesting, we never see Professor Oak catch Pikachu, or how he caught it, how he found it. He just has it ready for Ash.
That is one of my gripes. That when you heard Pikachu origin story announced, that was one of my burning questions.
Yeah.
How did Professor Oak meet this Pikachu, this legendary Pokemon, effectively for it's become an absolute powerhouse over the years in the Pokemon anime. How do they come to meet? And we just don't get to see it. We see it running off the forest path. Presumably towards Pallet Town or somewhere like that, but truly we don't know, and that was a little disappointing.
Yeah, and it's I think that's pretty much it in terms of the story. But one interesting thing, obviously, at the end they kind of recreate the first episode with Ash getting the Pikachu. They've got kind of fat faced Pikachu, obviously it coming out the Pokeball. But funny thing, Professor Oak is super chill when all the kids are 6.
Yeah.
As soon as Ash turns up, he is grumpy. He gets electrocuted, Ash, right? And Professor Oak could not care at all.
Makes you wonder how many times Ash has kept him waiting.
Yeah.
This kid was getting electrocuted, and Oak was just stone-faced, yeah, he'll do that.
Probably smiling inside, but Professor Oak, obviously that's how he was in the first episode. I think nowadays he wouldn't be as stone faced like that. But yeah, it was a good episode. But it just made me think I can't wait for the next episode where we get to see, you know, new Pokemon. I guess like stronger animation in scenes, and I mean, it wasn't a bad episode. I'd give it like a 7, I'd say. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like really giving numerics to like particular episodes, but it was a strong episode. Obviously with a few disappointments here and there, but ultimately I really enjoyed it, and it's got me, you know, it's whetting the appetite for more. And obviously next week's episode looks a bit of a tour de force of animation, a bit of excitement as well.
Yes.
We get to see the first raid battle in a Pokemon anime.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is really interesting. I don't know whether they're taking inspiration from Pokemon Go or obviously the Sword and Shield.
It'll be more Sword and Shield, definitely.
But to see Lugia fighting Bisharp and Garchomp, and I think possibly Corviknight as well.
Corviknight is, I'm pretty sure Corviknight's in there, but yeah.
So that could be our first look at Gen 8.
That's what I'm thinking.
There's some great animation cuts as well, so look forward to that one definitely.
But yeah, guys, that is pretty much it for the episode review. If you have seen it, let us know in the comments below what you thought of the episode. Like I said, I thought it was good. I think it tried maybe a bit too much to do in one episode, but it was still a very, you know, good first episode. But I feel like the next episode is kind of like more or less the actual
That is the episode
first
one.
episode.
This is an episode. This is a prologue.
Yeah,
and it's a good prologue. But yeah, like I say, like you say, leaves itself a bit too much to do in too short amount of time.
But anyway, guys, that was our first Pokemon episode review. If you did enjoy it, make sure to hit the like button down below.
And if you're new to the Twintendo Nation and want to keep up to date with everything Pokemon anime, hit that subscribe button.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have an awesome day.
And we will see you on the next video.
Peace!